I'm Chad Colby with our next guest, John Sandberg, who's the editor of Cat's Pride. And John, you're not a stranger to the I-500. And we just had a nice conversation, and I went, wait a minute, let's get the camera, and let's sit down for a minute.
So now we have to make it family. Yeah. So I've had the fortune of witnessing almost every I-500 since 1989, which included the Thunder Bay route,
right?
The resurrected Winnipeg route, and as well the current route around Thief River Falls. I've raced all three of those as well as shooting photos at all of them. So
right.
Good history there.
Were you involved last year with this year, or last year with the program here with the media sleds from Arctic Cat? How was that experience?
It was really good up until about a mile after the start on day one, and I'm cartwheeling through the ditch.
How'd that work out?
That worked out really well for me. I'd like to keep doing that as often as. No, that was not a good thing. But I got up and the sled was okay, and I raced the rest of that day. Only one other crash. And then after that point, I kept the skis on the downside and put in a
skis first, track
down, and no more crashes.
And you know, I know last year too. Sunday. What day did you race last year? What was your leg?
I actually did a little bit different deal than the media. I signed up for the Sport 85 class, and I raced all 3 days of the Sport 85. So.
Okay. Well, the good thing is I know for certain you didn't do any road running last year either. I mean, there's some people that you and I are involved with that have had some issues with that.
Can we just say his name, Joey Hallstrom?
Can we say Joe?
Joey Hallstrom, who was a team manager for me. I actually raced for Team Arctic a long time ago, and he was a team manager. And he was always on the up and up. But when I see Joey race, that guy is right down the middle of the road, and he'll of course deny it. But I've seen it. I'm sure of it. So.
What do you think about the run that Brian Deerdahl's been having? I mean, we talk about it, with my friends and in the trailer, and I don't think he gets enough credit for how monumental his run of the last 3 years has been. It's crazy when you look at the numbers. He's won half of the pro races in the last 4 years, half, and that's phenomenal. It's unbelievable.
Brian Deerdahl is a racer for the historical record books. Any era that, if Brian could be transplanted back to any era of cross country, Brian would be an I-500 winner in any era. He's that good. I remember him literally as a little kid racing the old ISOC years, and it was immediate. It was so apparent immediately from the time he started racing that he was an immense talent, and he's learned how to set up sleds. He's learned the work ethic of putting in the time between the races of testing and making sure his equipment is top notch, and he's an amazing racer. So he's got every base covered, and obviously,
John, it's fun talking to you because I've been racing forever and riding sleds forever. I've been fortunate to ride in 20 states and rode with lots of people and had a great time on snowmobiles. And what the humbling part of this for me is I get a lot of guys now, especially in the last month, that call me and ask for my opinion. What's he doing different? I think right now Brian just has the right balance. Is kind of the way I describe it. And his sleds are set up the way he wants them. Not necessarily the way you and I would set up a snowmobile. But he had made the comment at the Gonvik race that they put some different new shocks in the open class. He couldn't hardly ride it. He went and put his old stuff in. That's now 3 years old.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, they may think that that's not a big deal. That's a huge deal. With manufacturers coming out with different products, and now the geometry changes on the sled, and now what you liked and is different, But what he's been doing has just been incredible.
Well, in addition to having his equipment in perfect condition and perfect tune, in addition to his experience and his amazing natural talent, he also has confidence. I mean, when you're racing with confidence, there isn't a lot that you can't overcome. I think when he gets on the sled, he knows he's going to set a fast time or the fast time each day. So.
Well, it's been fun. You and I have a lot of experience with Arctic Cat, and I've had the fortunate conversations with Dan Ebert, talking to him, and wow, you know, here's a young guy that absolutely could go race snowcross every week and have fun, and you know what, he wants to come out and do this, and that's really rare.
And he likes it, and Dan's already a success in snowmobile racing. Dan's going to be an even bigger success, and here's why. I think most modern snowmobile racers, and there's some exceptions, but most modern snowmobile racers in snowcross are jockeys. They get on sleds that have already been prepared for them, that have already been tuned for them. They've got mechanics that watch them and make the adjustments, but the riders themselves don't know how to do it. Danny's the exception to that. Danny understands how a machine works. He understands what it needs. He races it, comes in and tells, or does it himself, the changes that need to be made. And Brian Beardall's the same way. All the great racers were
No, they are. You know, I watched the pits today. You walk through, and you know, there's Dan and his father, okay, this far away from each other, going over every detail.
Yeah.
And that's how you build confidence in the sled. That's how when you take the green flag tomorrow, you know that it's what he wants in the sled, and it does. It makes a huge difference.
It's a huge difference, and you know that there's something you can get out of each sled on a given day. You can get more out of it, and the only way to know that is to understand what it's doing, and then to have an idea about where you need to go for any calibration changes. So I guarantee you, when Danny had his hour maintenance session today, his sled is better than it was at the start of today.
And when I walked by, there was about 3 minutes left, and they were warming up the sled. They didn't.
Did they have the pledge out and they're polishing up the hood? It's a good old trick just to make the other guys are hammering stuff together, and you're just wiping that hood down with pledge. It's a good mental game.
You know, there's another thing that I heard a rumor, okay, that you were maybe going to get involved with the vintage sled at the 500. I'd overheard some stuff, and you know, do you want to elaborate a little on that?
Yeah. So I've raced the 3 different routes in I-500 history, and I'm a huge fan of vintage snowmobiles. I grew up reading all the snowmobile magazines, and my heroes were the Brian Nelsons and the Leroy Lindblads and the Dale Corn. Those are my heroes growing up, and I still ride vintage snowmobiles. And I thought, just how great or how bad would it be to go 500 miles on a Leaf Spring snowmobile? So I had every intention to find out what that was like this year, and I set up a deal where I was going to race a 1979 Arctic Cat cross country cat in this year's race, and I had to put that plan on hold, and I hope that next year I'll be able to do that.
How fun would it be to come through the river at Thief River on that?
Well, I just think it'd be great, and you know that any person along the route that's seen that, they're going to be, yeah, way to go.
And with some vintage clothing, I mean, come on.
I would put on some vintage clothing, and I would use the modern ibuprofen medicine, though. So plenty of it. Give me more ibuprofen.
Well, awesome. Well, listen, John, I'll let you enjoy your evening. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us here on Trackside.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.